so I can upload this to YouTube later. All right, back to this here. You know, I just discovered a bug in, I'm on the Mac here, although I'm running Windows here. This is in a virtual machine. There seems to be a bug that was introduced recently, and that makes the mail application randomly pop up. It just happened again. So either the window just comes into focus suddenly, or if I'm in full screen mode, like this Windows machine here is running full screen, it suddenly reduces the screen width to 50%, and the other 50% are then used for mail. I don't know what's going on. Maybe a reboot will solve that, but I'm going to do that later. All right. So like I said, this is a .NET standard library that we have here. And well, what did I put in here? This is what I want to use to communicate with that pellets unit. So that's why I put this very creatively named file in there, communication, and communication is going to be initialized with the pellets, not unite, but that should probably be pellets units host URL. I'm going to tell it where to talk to, and in there later today I'll be using the same technology that I also used in the other sources, so that it will involve HTTP client and probably Flurl, or what is it called? Flurl? You see, I forgot, I gotta check it. It's called Flurl, that abstraction around HTTP client. For now, though, what we have here is just an asynchronous method that's called get pellets data async. It's not doing anything. You see, it's sleeping a bit. It simulates a bit of the network delay that I'm going to expect here. And then it's returning a new pellets data entity, and pellets data for now, there's not a lot in it. I just put one property in there. For now, I think that's all I will be interested in. What is the amount of supplies left in the storage? That's all I have there. So with that in place, we should be able to run this. Anyway, I should actually explain the client. So that was the standard library, and you see here the client, that is that aforementioned console application with an asynchronous main method. This is something that was lately introduced to C#. Very handy, because otherwise you always had these workarounds where you had a static void main and you would have to kick off an asynchronous one and use the result there. So these days are gone. Now we can have an async task main. What it's doing in here, like I mentioned, it's just an endless loop essentially. It's sleeping for a bit. So what I plan is that this app is a bit like a service. It just keeps on running, and I don't know, every hour or probably every day or something, it's gonna talk to this pellets unit, pull the latest data, the amount of supplies from there, and uploads it into the cloud. That's what it's supposed to do. Here it's sleeping. I see the amount of time it's sleeping here. Poll delay hours, that's 1 divided by 60 divided by 60. So what is that? That's 1 hour, that's 1 minute, that's 1 second that it's sleeping here. And of course this has to change later. And somehow all of this has to be configurable. So currently these are hard-coded values, the URL that it has to talk to and the delay that I want to have in here. But somehow this has to be passed to this application, and I'm probably going to do this via the arguments here. And I read a bit about, well, what are you going to do if you run this in a container? How would you pass arguments? And I put these comments in there, so it seems to be possible. We'll have to check. So let's see if this builds and runs. Debug, start new instance. And there we go. Okay, so it outputs everything as expected. It's talking to this URL. There's a delay of 0.00027 hours. All right, and it just keeps on going until eternity. So that's good. Like I said, it's just for demonstrating now that the app is working. We have to plug in the code. But what I'm really interested for now is, how would I containerize this? Because this is something that I haven't done. I'm sure I can pull off the the actual communication with the server, that should not be the problem. But containerizing it is something that, well, I heard a lot about, but it shouldn't be too hard. So of course I prepared this a bit, I read a lot, and so let's just have a look at the documentation that we need here. I have got Docker installed here on the Mac. So where is it? There it is. You see it. So why on the Mac and why not over here on Windows? Well, my Windows device here is a virtual machine. And when you install Docker, then part of the Docker installation is where it tries to fire up a Linux system that acts as a virtual machine that's going to execute the Docker containers. Now, you cannot run a virtual machine inside a virtual machine unless you're paying premium money, at least with Parallels 14. So Parallels Desktop used to have a switch in the configuration for your VM where you could say allow these nested virtualizations, but that switch is gone. And I did a bit of research what happened, and it turns out that for the basic edition they just removed it. There's no technical reason, they just want to make more money. So you would have to pay a monthly fee to get this feature back. They would have to rent the software instead of buying it. Just they're trying to get rid of customers don't want to pay monthly fees. I'm not sure if I like this, but for now I can just run it here on the Mac. I mean, Docker containers, they are supposed to run everywhere, so kind of a good test, right? Build this thing over on Windows and then run it on a Mac, why not? But I might also want to check out other virtualization systems. I mean, there's VMware. Oh, maybe that would be an option in the future. So while we're looking at our issue here, create a console project that will be containerized. Yep, I did that. But we are not doing the actual communication yet, so the support library is there. Now, containerize the console app and test run on host. So here's a link I put in there where we can learn about containerizing a .NET Core application, which is exactly what we want to do here. Install the following prerequisites. Docker is installed, .NET Core. I suppose that's installed over here. It is. .NET is there. Then SDK version 2 there. Create a .NET Core application. Yeah, I have that. That's already there. I've got my own version of Hello World. I'm not sure if I want to zoom in a bit here. Oh, that's interesting. They are, you see, they are making use of the arguments here. So maybe the answer to my question, what to do with the arguments, is right in there. Any parameters after dash are not passed to .NET. Yeah, okay, that's all standard .NET stuff. Publish .NET Core. Before you add your doc image, publish it. You want to show containerize. All right. Okay, so here's what's happening there. They are using .NET Publish to create the release build. I reckon I can just go here and publish it there. I can do this from within Visual Studio. Publish folder profile. .NET Core app, target runtime, configuration, release. That's all good. Publish. So there are, as far as I understand, two options to build the contents of a container when it comes to .NET Core. You can either publish the application, so we kind of get the binaries, which really is intermediate language, but let's just call it binaries. So we take these binaries and then we put that into the container and we can run it on every platform that supports containers. Or we could go ahead and say, well, we're going to copy the source code of the application into the container. And then we build a container, or we use a container image that contains all the build infrastructure of .NET Core. So the compiler. So I would compile and create the binaries inside the container itself. So my understanding is that the second approach we built inside the container, that of course reduces the dependencies to really zero, because well, if it's working, you know that everything that you have inside that container is all the app needs. If it's not working, you know that the container is missing something, but if it works once, it should work forever. Whereas if you build it here on another host machine, it could be that you theoretically have dependencies on something that only lives on the host machine. And then when you containerize it, it's not going to work. I think for this app here, I'm fine publishing this here. And I'm also pretty sure that there's a way of automating that. So in an upcoming episode, I want to talk a bit about DevOps and see how we can do something like continuous deployments. If something's changed here in the source code, that it would create a new image. But let's just make it work locally first. Getting a bit ahead of myself here. So this command compiles your app into the publish folder. The path to the publish folder is .NET Core publish. Is that the case? It should. Come on. ETA client, binary release, .NET Core app, publish. And indeed, ETA client, DLL, good. There it is. Then bash. Oh, okay. Create the Docker file. So I should be able to run this now. Let's just give this a try here. So if I go in here, partial window here. Let's do the following: .NET ETA client.dll, and so this is running. So it really seems like it correctly compiled it, and I should now also be able to run this on a Mac. That's maybe the first test before trying to containerize this and add another layer of abstraction there. Where's Finder? There it is. So here I'm looking at the folder over in the virtual machine, but from my Mac. That means I should be able to go there, release, .NET Core app, publish, let's go there. And let's just do the same over here. .NET ETA client DLL. It was not possible. What? The specified framework version was not found. All right, what do I have in? I've got 2.19 installed. Let's fix that. The .NET Core prerequisites. I just want this puppy here. Does it not have an update? No. Well, let's just see. Let's grab this, download .NET Core SDK, build apps, .NET Core SDK, advanced, all .NET Core downloads. .2.2.3. Let's go ahead. Shouldn't take too long. Where's my elevator music? Remaining time less than a minute. Ah, there we go. Good. Close that. Delete it. So .NET version 2.2.3. Cool. So it updated that. Let's see. And it's working. This alone, I think, is so fascinating. I mean, I still remember the days when C# was exclusively available for Windows, right? And then when I discovered Xamarin, the first C# app running on an iPhone, that was fascinating. Then the first C# app running on an Android device, and now C# is just everywhere. It's just, if you think about it, I build an application over here on Windows and I can run that application on the Mac. Crazy times. Okay, so what are they doing here? Where were we? That's not what I was looking for. There we are. So this is done. Yeah. Create the Dockerfile. Right. So you can either build a Docker image and the resulting container by manually typing a lot of commands, and if you want to rebuild it, then you have to reissue these commands, or instead you could use a Dockerfile, and that Dockerfile defines all the individual steps that are necessary to build the image that then the container is being generated from. And it's always using a base image, and there are gazillions of base images that you can all find on, what's the address, Docker. It's just Docker hub, hub.docker.com. There we go. So on hub.docker.com, you can find all these base images, but here they already, I keep looking at the wrong one. Here they already know that they want to use the one with the .NET Core runtime 2.2. Let's create such a Docker file. I'm going to put this into the project, because this client should always be containerized. Add new item. Just a text file. And this is called Dockerfile. No extension. That's how you add it. Well, gotta convince Windows that I really don't want an extension. Yes, I'm absolutely sure I don't want that. No build action, nothing in there. So this is going to be based on that image, .NET Core runtime. That's cool. Pull the image tag 2.2. Yeah, we're saving, but we're still missing something. So right now it would just build that base image. I don't want that. Right, so here's the thing. We need to copy the published application into that container in the end. Well, let's just add that. So it's copying app bin. So that means the Docker file has to be in the correct location. Let's just see. So where did I put the Docker file? Is there. So that's now copying from, that's not app bin, that's just binary. Binary release .NET Core app 2.2 publish. Right, that's where our folder is. And it's going to copy everything into the containers app folder. And then the last line, that's the entry point. This is where we tell Docker what should it execute. So what part of this bundle or package should we run? And it's going to be in the app folder, but it's not my app.dll, but what did I call it? ETA client. That's the name of the DLL, right? So this is what we wanted to execute. Let's see if there's anything else there. No, that's it. So with this, we should be able to build our Docker container. All right, let's give it a try. Clear. And where am I? I am still too far down. There it is. So there we are again looking at the file system over on the Windows machine, but from our Mac here. And here's the Docker file. So this is now the part that I cannot do on Windows. I would be unable to build this because I have got Docker over here. There it is, but it's red. The whale is red and it says unable to start because of this virtual machine issue. All right, so what do we have to do? There is docker build t my image. By default, it's going to use the Dockerfile file name. Let's give this a try. I'm going to go docker build -t, and we're going to give it a name, ETA client image. I want to build it from right here. What is the thing? Docker build, what did I get wrong? Docker build -t, docker build -t, -f Dockerfile. Invalid reference format, repository name. Ah, it's cut off there. Repository name must be lowercase. ETA client image. Oh, there you go. That's it. Step 1 of 3. It pulled the .NET Core runtime. It copied everything in there. Okay. Now let's see what we have. Docker images. Ah, there it is. I missed it. It's the first one. There it is. So apparently it created an image. 180 megs? That's a lot. Why is that so? Oh, the .NET Core runtime? Is that true? The .NET Core runtime is 180 megs? It's big. It's really big, but we can handle that. Now I think we've got an image. We don't have a container yet. So image is nothing that we can run. A container is an instance of an image. So let's now create a container based on that image using the docker create command. Docker create and ETA client image. And we can see docker ps. How do I get all of them? There we are. -a, I can see all of the containers now. Let me clear that. There we go. That is our container. Now, next step would be to run this. So we've created it, manage the container. So we can start it now. Now here's something that I learned about containers. They all get random names because I wondered where would that come from? Vigilant Pascal. I was like, who makes up these stupid names sometimes? But every container instance is assigned a random name, so it's easier for you to reference it. And there's various ways of referencing it, either by that name, you can also override that, create your own, or by the container ID. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say, not .NET, Docker start, of course, Docker start. I can just use this container ID here. And it should be doing its thing. So why don't we see anything? Well, because I mean the container is running inside that virtual machine that has been installed here. So we don't see anything here. I could now go here to Docker and I've got Kitematic installed. And this should show me the running containers, but it's not. So what's the issue? So it's up, it's doing something, but this puppy here is not showing anything. I wonder if can I refresh that? Because I found that pretty convenient, otherwise we gotta use the command line. Ah, there it is. So it just had to refresh. So there is our Vigilant Pascal, and there we can look into what is going on in the container. So we can do this from the command line too, but that's really convenient here. And I could also directly jump now into the container and log into it. Let's see. We have there. So now I'm executing commands directly in the container, and going here, I should see exactly my file. So here's the ETA client DLL. This is what we're actually running here inside that container. So let's exit the container. So this seems to work. That's cool. Built a binary over on Windows, containerized it on the Mac, and execute the code here on the Mac, running in Docker. I could take this image and upload it to Azure and run it there, the Azure container instances, or ultimately, this, like I said in the beginning, should be running on some sort of well, embedded device or some Raspberry that's just going to sit then in the basement and do its thing. So that's this for now. Now, of course, this is not doing anything. I'm going to stop this because it's just outputting our test data. So proven that this is working, we've got a Dockerfile. Now what we don't have is the actual communication. So how would we do that? Well, last time I introduced that I already have got a little library that I can use to communicate with that pellets unit. It's got layers and layers of abstractions, interfaces and XML parsing and whatnot. And originally I was thinking, well, I'm just going to take this library and reference it here. But I reconsidered that. I think it's too complex, because all I really want for now is the amount of supplies. And if I look at Postman, where I've got the call to get the pellet supplies in there, we see that it's really just an HTTP GET against the IP address of the unit, /user/var, and then these magic numbers there. And it's returning this XML here that contains exactly what I want. So I just think I'm going to use HTTP client and grab that result value, and unfortunately it does not support JSON, and then use link to XML or XML to link to extract the values that I'm interested in. So let's do that. Let's give that a try. We need this puppy here. I'll copy that. Haven't I just renamed that? Oh, it was the parameter. So we need this here. We need to go there. And the base URL is, this. Oh, that's good. And then we need a string in here. Well, actually, we're going to put this in there. We're going to have a const string, and that's the, what is that? The URL path. And there we have this here. That's where we find it. And I think I still need another thing in here. I'm going to need a constant integer. That's the port number. It's always going to be 8080. Like that. So maybe you noticed it. I just had a quick look at a notification I received, and I think I want to quickly check what's up there, because what I read at a quick glance was that somebody I know is stuck with a car somewhere and might need help. Oh yeah, so I just got a message from a friend saying that he's got a flat tire. Let me quickly reply here. Always trying to help. So one will be ready about 50 minutes. That. Okay. Good. Going back to this here, we've got our port number here, and we've got our it's never used. Good. So then let's go ahead and, like I said last time, I'm a big fan of Flurl, and I want to use that again. Source Solar. Let's use this one here. No, that's not what we wanted. Solar helper. Get current power async. There we are. So something like this. I'm just going to copy that, and I need to install Flurl over here. My God. I need to double check what are the dependencies, what has to be installed here. It's Flurl HTTP. Now, as always, I wonder, can it magically detect that? No, it can't. So let's add that here. Come on. Manage NuGet packages. We're looking for Flurl HTTP. If you haven't checked out Flurl, I highly recommend that. I think I'm going to put that on the chat window. So whenever I have to do something around HTTP client, downloading JSON, deserializing things, sending it around, retrying, checking errors, I don't use HTTP client directly, but I rather use Flurl. You can also mock all the calls, so it's highly testable, and it's really simple to use. Maybe you want to give this a try in your next project. No, I don't want to run maps, please. I'm just gonna go back. Now somebody's firing up the lawnmower. Let me close the window. There we go. And we're back here. So this has been installed. We're there. So what do we need? We need our pellets units host URL. And here's what it's doing. It's adding extensions to the string, so you can directly download from a string if it's okay to say so. Append path segment. We want to append the URL path here. What is it complaining about? No quick actions available. Oh yeah, using. Okay, so has it not installed it? What did I just do? Loyal HTTP. Did I not click install? I should have. So what did I install? Nothing? Okay. Back there. Okay, now it's happy. So we are appending that URL path, and we're not setting any query params. And now so I had this last time. What was the issue there? I remember that it did not recognize the get JSON async. That this returns a URL. Using Flurl HTTP. Yep. I don't know why, but in this case Visual Studio isn't really helpful. So it doesn't support here. It doesn't recognize that it has to add this using. It can't get XML, can it? No. So what we want to get back then is let's get back a string asynchronously. We don't want any tokens here. And I think that's it. We get back a string. Now let me see what we're getting here. I could just put a breakpoint, I reckon, easier. Let's see what this is doing. Here's my little test program. I want to make that the startup project. We should get back the very same string that we already had over there in Postman. Call failed. No connection because the target machine actively refused it. Why would the target machine do that? So we are getting HTTP 192.168. Is that the right address? We're getting 192.168, 178, 22. Oh, missing port 8080. That's why. That's why. Does it have something for the port? No, it doesn't. So here's what we're gonna do. The pellets. I'm just gonna change that. So I'm gonna make it like this. I'm gonna say this is the host URL plus 8080. I mean, really, why bother? Why make it more complicated than it has to be? And yay, we get back some XML. So I think the only thing that I want to extract here is what is called str value in there, or the actual XML value, and then parse that. Let's see. Now, I'll look this up here because I forgot. I think, what is that called? Yeah, X element, right? Using system xml.link. So maybe we can use that to somehow extract the information in there. X element. So this allows to load from a URI, from a stream. I just want to load from a string. Is that not possible? New X element. From other, from a name, from another. How do I get an X element from a string? So where am I thinking wrong? Why would that not be possible? X element from string. Parse, of course, parse. X element dot parse. There we go. And we've got a string here, so that result is what we want to load. So that's our supplies XML. Is it happy with that? What are we getting here? We're getting an X element. Superb. And then we need to, what am I going to do with this now? I can get attributes. I can get maybe I just want to get the value, right? So what do I need? What does it return? It returns a value. Oh, we have it, which is a string. And that is what, 11,498. What's the unit that is used here? So the string value is 1150 and the unit is kilogram. And this is 11. It seems like it's this value divided by 10 and then it's rounded. And here it's got a scale factor. It seems like that's how it's working in the API. It has got a base value, which is the 11,498, and then it tells you got to divide this by 10 to get the actual value. So maybe I want to use that instead of the string value, because I don't know if that is always calculated correctly. And let's do that. The value, and we're gonna convert that. So this should always be an integer, right? Or what am I getting here? As a string? I'm getting this as a string, I think. So we could just say the base amount is this, and we should be able to convert that to what do we need there? Make it a float. Make it a float, maybe. Float to parse. Using system. You're not really helpful today, are you? Lowercase. So we are getting a base amount value, and we are getting a well, a divider, I would call it. And that divider is, where do we find that? That was called scale factor. So that's an attribute. So I think what I'm doing here is wrong now that I look at it a bit closer. Oh, question here. What are you making here? Chat window just saw it now. Sorry, chat was covered. I'm building out a digital dashboard, which is shown here, where I want to aggregate all kinds of data that I can get from, well, devices and other sources from around the house. So I want to display what is the amount of pellets units left in my storage in the central heating, how much energy is the solar installation generating, what is the workout of the day in my gym, how much energy is the car currently using, should I charge it or not. So just aggregate all this using Azure, and then create like a website, or really a web page, single page website, where I can see at one glance all this information, because I figured I'm using various apps to get all this information every now and then, mostly every day. And I want to simplify that, and of course I want to practice a bit with Azure and the technology there. So that's what I'm doing here. If you're interested in more details, check out the GitHub repository, and from there you'll find a link to, I'm gonna put it here in the chat, you'll find a link to all the previous sessions that are recorded on YouTube. Okay, so back to this here. That is somehow going to be our supplies XML dot attribute. Attribute. How do I get an attribute here? I haven't really used that. An X name is just a string, I guess so. So what was that called? Scale factor. Scale factor. There you go. And our scale factor is, let's just make it a float too. I really should move that window out of the way so it doesn't cover the chat. There it is. Cannot convert from system XML link attribute to string, but they're doing it in the example. If you wonder what I'm looking at, I should maybe pull that over here. Should pull it over there. Where is it? There. So this is what I'm looking at. X element load. That's what we did. Purchase orders dot descendants item select string item dot attribute. So it's clearly a string here. So the question is, what did I'm loading this XML, and I'm gonna need. You know what? I gotta try this while running it. I don't know what to get there. I'm probably gonna need the first child element. It's this here. Is there something like the first Yeah, the first child node of this. This is likely what I want. I haven't used link XML in a while. So I'm getting this, and the first child node, that should then be value, I guess. And so from there, how do I, you see, I'm so close to just using some string manipulation or regex to find that out. How the heck would I get to the value? So this is now a node, X node. Know what? I'm just gonna fire up the debugger here and try this and see what is in there. I could well read the documentation now, but okay, so we got something there. That's good. Immediate window. I mean, supplies XML. Good. Good. Supplies XML is equal to value URI. So what are we getting here? We are getting exactly what I want. Okay, so from that value node, I want to get, what do I want to get? The first node. I just want the content. There must be something in there. Supplies XML dot. Is it just toString? No. Supplies XML, how hard can it be? Node type, next node. Annotation, base URI, document. What's document? That's the X document. No. Type is before next node. Node type, previous node. Come on! Has elements, false. Oh. Okay. Doesn't help. X node get value of node. Get element node using X element data. That's what I want. My element. X node get value. I'm doing something wrong here. I reckon I'm doing something very wrong. It can't be that hard. File element, no, that's not what I want. X node class. Base URI gets the document. Node type. Get. It's unbelievable. From item, they are getting the descendants. I don't want to get the attributes. I just want to get the text. Just the simple text. Oh, so is it that is the value of a, so what I call the value here, the 11,498, is that actually it's a subnode, I reckon. So that's why. But isn't that what I just tried? I want to go. Next node is null. Next node elements after self. No, no, no ancestors. Node type, previous node, remove, replace. What makes this even worse is that I did it before. So I worked with these things, so I should be able to figure it out. It's just that certainly one of the features in .NET that I'm not using too often, but let's just see what we have here. ETA shared. Let's see if it's in there. Should be able to find it there. Does this contain? Yep, it does. Get content elements, get content element. That's not the one I was after. I'm looking for support, ETA, no. Where is it retrieving that? ETA manager. It's the one I have got open here. Packages, components. Why don't I just open the solution? So much easier. So while this is loading, quickly, still the issue with the car. Let me just reply here. All right, so this is open. What do we have? We need ETA shared. Yeah, I'm using an old web API. I am looking for get version, get supplies, XML, 8 references. Implementation. This is what we want. Okay, so here, get XML response async. It's getting this, get async, read a string. Okay, so there it's getting it. And then get supplies XML async in the manager. Convert get content element. Now don't tell me there's another value in there that I just missed. Now get content element value, yup. And divider and unit. You see, I have no idea what I'm doing there. So there I'm getting the attribute like I just did in my example, that's good. Convert to double, get content element dot value. How hard can it be? What is that get content element? I don't know when was the last time that I got so stuck with something, because there is no value there. So I wonder what is different here. Question in chat, is this utilizing ASP? No, no ASP, no ASP.NET here yet. I mean, it's using functions, so it's all meant to be serverless as much as possible, but there's currently no ASP.NET project involved here. What I do have is a lot of .NET Core going on. Elements, get content elements. XML doc. You see, I have no idea what this is all about. I just want to get the content of this text node. Get content elements. Now what I'm doing, maybe I don't worry too much about that. I'm just gonna use this puppy here. Just gonna copy that. You don't always have to understand everything. I know this code is working, so why don't I just use it in there, right? I'm gonna put this in there, like this. And then we have got, where is this with the supplies? Get API version, get supplies, async. That's what we have. That's what we need. Now let's just fix that. Convert to double value attribute. And then we need to divide that. Value by divider. So that's the amount in kilogram. That's really what I'm after. And that's all this here. And this is then just that. What's wrong? Cannot convert from to string. Okay. So this has to gotta be a string. You can get that as a string. There we go. And I don't need the unit, it seems. Just put that in there. Unit, no, amount in kilogram. And that's an integer. All right. Math.round. And let's make that int. There we go. Now it should be happy. I've been thinking about getting into .NET Core, but I enjoy Linux Mac too much. Well, you missed the first part. Now look at this. I'm on the Mac here. I'm in the terminal here. And I can just go here. I go release. I go NetCore app. And I've got a DLL here that I built over on Windows. And I go .NET ETA client.dll. And I'm running my .NET Core app that I built over on Windows here on the Mac. So no excuse having a Mac. Actually, this works everywhere. So if you want to get into .NET Core, it's completely up to you. You decide what you code, where you code it. There's Visual Studio for Mac, there's Visual Studio for Windows, there's Visual Studio Code. So whatever your preference is, use it. So then what I did here is I'm building this in Visual Studio for Windows, and I published it on Windows. That means I created the binary. I then switched over to the Mac and I containerized it, run it in Docker, and run the code inside a Docker container on the Mac. So what is a good place for learning .NET Core? Well, I think one place to get started, if you really haven't done anything with the language, I'm not even sure if I have a good resource for you. I'd maybe say try Pluralsight courses, pluralsight.com. If you want to try that out, they have got a lot of courses. And otherwise, well, just Google some I don't know, C# introduction or something tutorials. I guess there's plenty out there. I don't really have a recommendation, and otherwise there's https docs.com, really simple domain, which is the Microsoft documentation, and there you'll find pretty much everything that you would need. If I just open that here, docs.com takes you to the Microsoft documentation. We also have Microsoft Learn. That's actually where I'm working. Sorry, just decided to show this in German, but it's of course available in all languages. So here you can learn everything about Azure interactively without paying money. So that's also something that you may want to look at then when you have got some basic .NET knowledge or C# knowledge. It's not really just only C#. You could go with F# or Visual Basic. Okay, so back to this. What is he complaining about here? Nothing works using system link. And I don't want to have a logger here. Let's just get rid of this. No logging, no exceptions here. Is it happy now? It's happy. Yay. Okay. Well, let's see what we're getting. I think it's funny how I build an app that runs across platforms on Windows and Mac, how I containerize it and fire it up on Docker and all of these things within like 10 minutes. And then I'm stuck parsing a freaking XML file. But finally we got it. You see, here it is, amount kilogram 150. It did the trick. It did it. It really did. So I'm glad I still had this old code around. Okay, so now this puppy here is actually talking to this pellets unit down in the basement, which is cool. And for now, it's just returning the amount of pellets. Good enough. And we go back here. It's outputting it. So this is this one. And now the next thing that it would have to do is post that up to the cloud. Or we could look at passing parameters. So let's find that out, because I'm gonna need that. I've got 20 minutes to go. Let's give this a try. So what if I want to just output the arguments here? So I go if arguments is not null, then let's just iterate over it. Just want to output them and see what's in there. Right line, argument, and add more curly braces, argument I. Let me publish that here. What? Parameters, not parameters. Parameters? It's parameters. I know in German it's Parameter. So there you have the emphasis on the RA. Okay, so let's see. This over here, let's close this window. I need this one here. .NET ETA client DLL, and we want to go dash. So what are the values going to be? I don't know, the one is going to be maybe every 2 hours, and the other one is going to be the URL, something like this. Aha. Hey, see this? It's interesting. It says argument 0 is dash dash, whereas in the documentation it says that you have to put this dash dash because otherwise it would interpret it as an input to the .NET command. But I don't really see this happen. So it was somewhere in there. Where is it? Publish .NET run. There. Any parameters after double dash are not passed to .NET run, instead of passed to your application. That's wrong. So .NET run dash dash 5. It's not working that way. .NET. What are they doing here? .NET. Oh, I see. If I don't specify the, can I just go .NET run here? .NET run. Ah, exactly. Well, how do we fix that? So I don't think I need this one here. Yeah, we're getting these two. These two parameters. Is that better? Parameters? Parameters? I'm getting it. Going back here. How to pronounce it? What is it doing?
There are some American words that Brits just do not understand. It's like a different language. So today, we're going to look at 10 of the most...
Parameters.
There we go.
Parameters.
Parameters. You know what? I'm just gonna play this little clip here every time I need to say it. Parameters. Thanks for educating me here. Where was I? There. So we need to re-containerize this puppy here. And so did I publish it? I'm confused here. Yeah, did I? Publish that again, just in case I didn't. There we have it. And go back here, and we need to go ahead and, what do I have to do now? Do I have to rebuild the image? I guess I do. And of course, I long forgot how to do that. Containerize an app. We need to publish it. We have published it. That's what we need, right? The docker build command. Docker build, that's what we need. Unable, what? Unable to evaluate symlinks in Dockerfile path. What are you going on about? Volumes, windows. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. I'm in the wrong folder. That's why. Okay, it did it. So we have rebuilt the image. Let's recreate the container. Docker create ETA client image. And we need to see what has been generated. We need to run this puppy here. Docker run. Docker. I always confuse them. So Docker run is where you pass in an image and it will create it and run it. And Docker start is what you would use here. Good. Let's see what this is doing. Matic. Yeah, so it's returning the same data as before, but just by coincidence, the actual value is what I used there as a placeholder. I can't really tell if it's working. Now, let's try and pass parameters. I gotta practice that to this command here. So where was that? Docker run my app. So where can I just go ahead and add them here? Test 1, test 2. No. How to pass to Docker and run and print it. Yes, that's what I want. I just made a repo here. Docker run. Yeah, I don't want to use Docker run. How are they doing it in here? Docker start, connect. Single run. That's funny how they are building a test application here that theoretically accepts input values, but then they are not showing how to do that. Bummer. So this does not work. So what are we looking for? We are looking for the right window here. We are looking for Docker start in arguments as arguments to entry point. That's what I'm looking for. How to pass arguments to shell script through Docker run. Is it possible to pass Docker build, Docker run? So it's not working for me, is it? Docker run. No such container. Docker run DRM in Dockerfile. What's this one here? Bash command. Docker run -d.rm. That shouldn't. No, I want to. Did I type Docker run? Docker start. Every time. Docker start. Dockerfile doesn't pass along extra arguments. Docker run. It's always interesting how the things that appear to be so simple in the beginning, this is where you get stuck there. So how would I pass these? Can I? Arguments in a Dockerfile. I'll be happy with that too. You can pass an environment variable with the E switch. I don't want an environment variable. I just want a command line argument. Damn it. Start -e test 1 unknown shortcut flag. It's impossible. Start command line arguments. Focus start, no, pass command line arguments. Not pass through Docker run. Yeah, isn't that what I just looked at? Docker build, Docker run. Docker run. So does it work with Docker run? Docker run, ETA test image, and then test 1. No, it's not ETA test image. It's of course ETA client image. ETA client image. Ah, there, it worked. You see that? Here we go. Argument 0, test 1. Okay, am I stupid here? Docker run versus Docker start. Difference. Run equals create plus start. Well, yeah, I guess I'm fine with that. So if that's how it's working, I think I would always create a container anyway and not just start an existing one. So if that's what is supporting it, then that's fine. Okay, so let me copy that. There you go. Can I have multiple parameters? Damn it. No, that's not working. So they're really without quotation marks. Test 1, test 2. Yep. Let's copy this here and save this for reference for later. There we go, arg1, argument 2, and then we don't need this here. And yeah, so I'm gonna add a little helper there that parses these values and then uses them as the configuration values for this app here. But that's nothing that I think is super interesting for now. So our time it's already over. It's already almost 11 a.m. here. I always allow about 1.5 hours for this stream. So achieved today, where's my overview? The third source is in place. It's creating values. Now it needs to upload those values to the cloud, which is the next step. The other sources, they're already doing that because they run directly on the cloud. And then over the following week, I'm gonna add this one here, the one that talks to the car. I said this last time, I don't want to do this live on the stream because this really involves handling with very, very sensitive passwords and usernames. So if by accident I expose that to the world, then yeah, you'd get access to my car, which is probably not a good thing. And it's nothing that I can quickly change or I want to change. Whereas here with this one, I can just easily rotate the API key, so that's not a big problem if you see that. This one here is running locally only, so you can access that, but this one here is a bit different. So I'm going to do that, and then we want to bring it all together in the next week. And as said in the introduction, next week I'm thinking about scheduling this for the later, or for the afternoon, maybe 3 p.m. my time here. I want to see how this affects the number of attendees here. For now though, thanks for watching, and let me see if there's somebody on Twitch in science and technology that we want to move you guys over to. It's what are people talking about? This is it's unbelievable. Is anybody really watching a stream that is called Relax with the Sheep, where you've got a webcam pointing at a sheep? I guess people do. There's not a lot going on here. Training AI to fight. This it's pretty hard to, not. Let me see again. So here, hey, this gentleman here, we could rate him. It's me. RPG. This is cool. So this is actually one of my other hobbies when I'm coding, the Godot engine. So if you're interested in creating games, check that out. That's really great fun. The Godot engine is so much, so interesting. I want to stream about that. So let's see, we can find this here. There we go. Thanks guys for watching, and I'm gonna see you next week, hopefully. So until then, have a great time and goodbye.